Hey, Kevin here, top 100 financial advisor and best-selling author, and I am here to talk about the stock market with one of my favorite investors, one of the smallest investors that I know. And we are going to quickly discuss the Bitcoin ETF pros and cons, and then what I think about it and what I may or may not be doing with this Bitcoin ETF. So we will be relatively quick for obvious reasons because her attention span is only but so long and she has appointments and meetings to get to. So let's go ahead and get started. So Bitcoin ETF, there is a new Bitcoin ETF. It proclaims to be the first one, which it technically sort of is. And I'll get to why I'm saying it like that in a few minutes. But it debuts tomorrow, which is the 19th of October. The pros, we'll start there and then we'll go into some of the cons. The pro is this does expose more people to Bitcoin and allows people to profit off of what we would hope to be continued Bitcoin growth, which is generally a good thing. It also opens up and gives more access to people. What do I mean by that? This makes it easier to add Bitcoin to your retirement accounts like a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. In theory, this will be good, assuming that Bitcoin continues the growth path that it has been on the last, let's say, 5 or 6 years and going back even further than that. Now, why am I emphasizing assuming and why am I emphasizing if? Because you don't know where Bitcoin is going. None of us do, right? I would hope that it continues to do that. But again, let's say that I add this Bitcoin ETF to my Roth IRA. That would be great if Bitcoin continued to grow the way it is, because I get to put in my money now, pay my taxes now, and then when I'm ready to withdraw that without taxes and penalties, bruh, that's a whole lot of gain that I would benefit from. Except that, that's 20 some odd years away, which yes, you have the potential of compounding growth and interest, but that's no guarantee. So we hope that's the case, but we don't actually know that's the case. But that's the pros. You could open this up and have more people have access to flood the market in a positive way. Uh-oh, what's wrong? To flood the market in a positive way, and you may be able to continue to push up the value of Bitcoin. Again, generally pretty good. We have to see how it is in practice. But here's the con, and this is the con that everybody is pointing out, people who are really in the Bitcoin community. This is the fact that the ETF is based on futures prices, or rather futures contracts, and not the actual value of Bitcoin. I'll get to what futures are in a second, but what this essentially means is that unlike an index fund or an ETF that tracks the performance of that stock or owns a section of the stock, so stock goes up, ETF goes up, stock goes down, ETFs go down. We've done this before with the S&P 500 and then like the S&P 500 ETF. You look at them on a chart, they are nearly identical. However, that's not always the case when the ETF is based on the futures market. The futures market is a derivative market, which means that futures contracts, I'll let you know what futures are in a second, but futures contracts are based on the value of Bitcoin. It is not the value of Bitcoin. Two separate things. Some cases they can be in the same direction, other cases they cannot. One great example that Dr. Hans brought up, Dr. Hans, the investing tutor, feel free to follow him. He knows way more about Bitcoin than I do. Been on his podcast, bunch of stuff. Very cool guy. However, he even pointed this out when we talked about oil going negative at one point in the year. Oil futures were like negative, but then oil's prices actually like went down to zero. Those two things don't match. How is one negative and one zero? That's a 37% gap, right? Or whatever, wherever it was at the time. So you have to remember that futures prices don't actually equal the assets prices. Futures contracts, I did an article on it. I'll try and link that below for Business Insider. I break all the things down about futures. A little bit more complex. I don't think new investors want to get into the futures market. That's just me. However, you do want to know that this ETF is based on futures, not exactly Bitcoin, which is an issue for some people. The good thing about it being based on futures, number one, that it was approved, which was something that I think since 2017, there have been several asset managers or people trying to create Bitcoin ETFs that were more direct. All of them got rejected until somebody said, okay, well, let's base it on futures, and it actually got approved, which is how we got to where we are. This will not be the only one that is based on Bitcoin or Bitcoin futures. There are a few more, I think there are 4 or 5 that are slated to come out before the end of the year. We'll see where that goes. The other con here is that the expense ratio is 0.95%, which means for every $1,000 you are paying $9.50 for this ETF. Yes, that's not super expensive. You know, $1,000, I'm paying you $10 to get this exposure. Not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but when you compare it to something like an index fund, you're looking at like 0.07%, and almost basically you feel like you're paying almost nothing, but there is a fee for that. The other part of it is, why would I pay for pay for an ETF that's not really directed at Bitcoin when I could just go buy Bitcoin on Cash App or Robinhood or Coinbase or wherever you want to get it from and pay nothing for it, or at least close to nothing for it. Some apps have different things. In most cases, I can get it for free. Why would I go and do this ETF? One of the reasons people may consider it, is because it is easier to add that Bitcoin exposure to retirement accounts like a Roth IRA or something of that nature, which means that if Bitcoin grows the way it has the last 5 or 6 years, then that means I can put money into it now. It grows and grows and grows the way it has, and then when I'm ready to pull it out of a Roth IRA, I'm paying no taxes on it, which would be great. Problem is, I am not 59 years old or anywhere close to it. Why is that important? Because when I withdraw from a Roth IRA, to avoid taxes and penalties, I need to be at least 59 and a half. So between now, I'll be 32 in a few weeks. So between now and 59 and a half, we do not know whether or not Bitcoin is going to grow at the same pace or at a regular pace between now and then. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Bitcoin hasn't been around long enough for us to give us a reasonable estimate for that period of time. We simply do not know. I have hope that it does, but again, we don't know. And because it's based on the futures market, you really don't know where it's going to go between now and then. That doesn't mean that you should just avoid the ETF altogether. Do your research, come up with what you think is best for you. Personally, I am not investing in this ETF. I ain't really excited about it. I think it's good. I think it can help Bitcoin prices to further grow. I think it's great for greater access, good for retirement funds to a degree. I've talked about how much I would add, or what I think is a good amount to add to Bitcoin, but I think there are some inefficiencies here that could be corrected in time. I think it's just a matter of time. It could be 1 year, it could be 10 years, I don't know, where you get a better and easier access to your retirement account to Bitcoin. What happens when you can add Bitcoin directly to your ETF? I'm sorry, when you can add Bitcoin directly to a Roth IRA or something like that. That would solve all of this, and I wouldn't need this type of ETF at all. So I think overall it's a good concept. I think it's a great milestone for Bitcoin. I'm not 100% sure that it's the best investment in and of itself. That's just me, right? Somebody else is going to have a different opinion. I'm just giving you my view from it. So that is it for me today. My daughter is walking out of the room doing whatever it is she's doing. So I'm going to go and be a dad and figure out, make sure she's okay. You coming back? Okay, she's not coming back. So I gotta go. I will talk to you guys later. I have some really exciting news and content and things coming out. Make sure that you went ahead and filled out that survey if you haven't, because I got some stuff brewing. I got a really cool project that I would like to do, but I'm not gonna do it unless y'all say in the survey that you want to do it. That's how this thing works. Y'all control what type of stuff is on the channel and what I do. So I think it's going to be a real cool project. It is leading in the survey. I'm not going to tell you what question it is because I want to influence it. But I will say, make sure you take that survey. It helps me create better content. I know for a fact someone had asked for a JP Morgan versus Capital One video. That's going to be fun. Doing a few individual company breakdowns. And always love answering questions from y'all. So that is it for me. You're handing me some sort of food in my hand. Ooh-wee. All right, this is going to get messy. All right, say bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, so I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.